All rise and for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Member Hurley.
Present.
Member Young.
Here.
Member Miklich.
Here.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith.
Here.
Chair Lowry.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, everyone, welcome to Thursday, October 5th meeting of the Historical Preservation Board. The first business is to approve the agenda. Anybody have anything to add to the agenda?
I'd
before we
like
get
to
that
add
part?
just a moment before we adjourn for local events and announcements from the museum.
Okay. I would like to add as an item of discussion, just because it's a hot topic and it'll be coming up more, I think, in the future, and that is the status and the state of the alleyway garbage pickup in the historic district. I think that is something that's uniquely an issue that deals with Pastor Grill, and especially, obviously, just the historic district itself, being that that's really the only area of the city where there are alleys. And, I mean, to speak of behind residences and things. So I'd like to bring that up, and perhaps for next month, we can have some people attend to answer some questions, or we'll just see where we are. I know that there's been a lot of things, a lot of letters and petitions and things like that given to the city, so I'm sure they're working on it in some respect.
Okay, so I have 5B events, 5C alleyway garbage pickup. So if that's it, we can just get a motion and a second. And
I'll move to approve the agenda with the 2 additional items.
I'll second
Member Hurley.
Yes.
Member Young.
Yes.
Member Miklich.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith.
Yes.
Chair Lowry.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next we have audience comments. Does anybody have any audience comments before we get started on the individual items? If it's a comment on the things that are on the action items or the information items, you can speak at that time. But if there's anything in general you'd like to speak about at this time, you can come forward and do that. Anybody have any comments? Okay, next we go to the approval of minutes. I wasn't there on September 3rd, so I would ask someone else to make the appropriate motion if necessary.
I move to approve the minutes from the meeting on September 9th.
I second.
Member Hurley.
Yes.
Member Young.
Yes.
Member Miklich.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith.
Yes.
Chair Lowry.
If I can, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next we have action items. 4A is the local landmark designation in case number 23059 on the Keystone Hotel, which is located 801 Gulf Way. And staff, you have a presentation?
yeah, so Chair Lowry, like we discussed, most of these site-specific applications that come in front of you, specifically for local designation or design review or even demolition permits at times, in our department's opinion, are what's called quasi-judicial, right? So it's not a resolution, it's not a policy, it's something site-specific that you all are hearing and approving. So with that being said, we are going to start treating these more formal because the law requires it. And the way we're going to start off is the clerk is going to go ahead and swear in any witnesses that will be providing testimony. At that point, staff will present, make their presentation. Then we will let the applicant come up and do the same. You can ask questions as a board throughout this entire process. Then you will open it up for public comment. Then you will close public comment. Then you will deliberate and make a motion. Okay, so moving forward, when you see these site-specific, the more we do this, the more comfortable you'll feel. But if we could take a minute and let the clerk swear in any witnesses, I'd appreciate that.
If you are a staff member, member of the public, or an applicant here on either the local landmark designation number 23059 or the design review number 230077, please stand and raise your right hand. When I say this, I want you to agree. Do you swear or affirm that the information or factual representation that you're about to give or present to the City Commission tonight is truthful?
I agree.
Thank you.
Okay, take it away, Lynn.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon. Our case today, is a local designation for the Keystone Hotel, which is located at 801 Gulf Way. So this property has, the applicant is specifically requesting designation of 801 Gulf Way of the Keystone Hotel pursuant to section 28.221 of the Land Development Code. We will be showing you the zoning map, aerial photographs, general photographs of 801 Gulf Way, local designation criteria, and then the staff findings and recommendation. This is a map of the zoning district for 801. The zoning district and land use is Commercial Redevelopment District, 8th Avenue. We have some aerial photographs of the property. This came off of the property appraiser's website, and in the recent and historic photographs, I've got some better aerials for you. So this is the facade of, this is on Gulf Boulevard, and then that's looking to the west, and it also fronts on 8th Street. This is looking to the east. Gulf Way is the street that fronts it. This is one of the aerials whereby, you can get a pretty good look at the back end of the building. It's the building that is yellowish in color and has the red tile roof. This is another angle of that property. And I was using these because the couple of times I went down there to photograph with the beach renourishment that's going on and all of the cars and all of the people, I was not able to get any kind of good shot both times I was down there. So I'm using older photos. These are a couple of the historic photographs of the Keystone Hotel. They were provided by the applicant. This is a photo I took in 2021 of the 8th Avenue side of the Keystone. So we know that a local landmark means a building, structure, or site which may not qualify to be on the National Register or the state site file, but is recognized by the city as having local historic significance. These are the designation criteria, and they relate to whether or not the building exemplifies or reflects the broad cultural, political, or economic and social history of the city, county, state, or United States, could be associated with events that have had a significant contribution to either the broad patterns of our community or the state or the nation. It's associated with the life of a person who has played a significant role in our local, state, or national history, and embodies the distinctive characteristics of an architectural style or period or a method of construction, or it is constructed and a reconstructed building that has been accurately executed. Also, it could be listed on the National Register of Historic Places or be eligible for inclusion. In this case, this property is considered to be a contributing property to the Paso Grill National Register Historic District. Staff finds that the Keystone Hotel, located at 801 Gulf Way, is a contributing hotel structure in the Paso Grill National Register District, and it's also located on the northeast corner of 8th Avenue and Gulf Way. It was built as a hotel in 1945, and it has been owned and operated by the same family since its construction in 1945, and it does continue its use as a hotel since 1945. And specifically, staff finds that it exemplifies or reflects the broad cultural, political, economic, or social history of the city. It also is associated with the life of a person who has played a significant role in St. Pete Beach's and Paso Grill's local history. Specifically, I think it's Ricciano, who was the architect of the building and also its builder, and then also Mary Falkenstein, his daughter, who ran the hotel for many years. and a number of family members still reside in St. Pete Beach and the Paso Grill area. So staff finds that it embodies the distinctive visible characteristics of an architectural style or period. In this case, it's a masonry vernacular with stucco walls and barrel tile roof, which is very typical within Lower Pinellas County historic architecture. It's also listed on the National Register of Historic Places, was within the district that's listed in the National Register of Historic Places, and it potentially could be eligible for inclusion in the National Register on an individual basis, although that has not been reviewed at this time. It is included on the state master site file as an individual property and as a contributing property to the locally historic district. Staff is recommending that the board move to approve case 23059 for the local historic designation of the Keystone Hotel located at 801 Gulfway because of the fact that it exemplifies or reflects the broad cultural, political, economic, or social history of the city. It's associated with the life of a person who's played a significant role in our local, state, or national history, specifically Bruno Ricciano, who was the architect and builder, and also Mary Falkenstein, his daughter, who ran the hotel for many years. And through a couple of references I found in newspaper articles, was kind of considered the matriarch of Paso Grill. It does embody the distinctive visible characteristics of the masonry vernacular style of architecture. It does have stucco walls and barrel tile roof, very typical within the lower limits of Pinellas County historic architecture. It's also listed in the National Register of Historic Places, historic Paso Grill district, and it is considered a contributing property to this National Register district. We have a recommended motion that goes through requesting approval of this case to 23059 and also goes through the 4 areas of significance for this property. Be glad to answer any questions you may have.
And before we get started, and I should have done this in the beginning, and as we work through this, we'll get better. Is there any ex parte communication? So when we're in a quasi-judicial proceeding, the approval and denial are based on the record in front of you, right? So what ex parte communications are site visits, communications, emails you may have received from concerned citizens or the applicant outside of the hearing in front of you today. So if we can go one by one and just disclose any of those communications or site visits or any knowledge you would have obtained outside of what's been presented to you, now would be the appropriate time to mention it in the record. Also, if there's any conflicts or anything, now would be the time to step down as well. So if we want to start, any ex parte, Member Hurley?
None. None.
Okay.
None.
No.
None.
And I will need to recuse myself from voting, and I'll step down at this time, just because of the personal nature of the vote.
Okay. I appreciate that.
Thank you. If you have no further questions, thank you.
Okay, opening up for audience comments. Anybody would like to speak to this?
First, it would be the applicant, if they're here.
Oh, I think you are the applicant too, are you not?
And Mary Jo Miklish, 1705 Paso Grill Way. I don't know if that's necessary for me to tell you that or not. You know why I'm here. I don't usually come before you because you do everything perfect. The whole city does, as far as I'm concerned, so I just watch from home. But I do want to appreciate and tell you that just considering this historical designation means a lot. My family's been in the area, as you know, for a long time. We've worked hard to preserve what we have, and you guys help too. So bottom line is thank you, and it's about time. So I'm excited. It's very exciting. Do you have any questions for me? Or my grandfather would be proud too. It was covered very well there, so there's not need for me to repeat things. You guys know the history, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I do not at this time.
No questions?
No questions. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, now, I guess we saw audience comments.
Correct.
Anyone? Okay. Having no audience comments, I would close that portion, and now it's time for us to deliberate. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Fast learner.
Thank you. I don't know.
Make a motion?
I guess you can, just
Okay.
let's move it right along.
I would like to make a motion to approve local historic designation of the Keystone Hotel at 801 Gulf Way.
Case number?
Do you have the,
Case number 23059.
Thank you.
oh,
I think if we just modify the motion with the case number, that should be sufficient.
right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Case number 23059. I'd like to make a motion to approve local historic designation of the Keystone Hotel at 801 Gulf Way.
And I'll second.
Member Hurley?
Yes.
Member Young?
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith?
Yes.
Chair Lowry?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
You'll bear with me because my computer is messed up too here. Okay, next we have action item 4B, the design review, case number 23077 on 2814 Passagrille Way.
And before you start, Brandon, because this is more appropriate, any ex parte communications on this project, now would be the time to carry them. So remember, it's not just communications, it's site visits. I know some of you are local, but it would be in preparation of the hearing, not just, years ago because you were trick-or-treating.
None other than just driving by for personal observation, solo, no communication. So.
Same for me, driving and walking.
Okay.
Drive by.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
Chair Lowry?
I'm sure I drive by it every day, but I didn't pay attention to
Okay.
it, so, right.
Thank you, Brandon.
Good afternoon. This is design review case number 23077 for 2814 presumed address. It's currently 0 Passagrille Way. The applicant is Ron Wilson of Peregrine Construction Group. He is present for the owner of Matthew Foster. And staff's requesting Historic Preservation Board design review of a new single-family residence, which is constructed to the house medium standards of the Passagrille Overlay District, which is being constructed as a new development of the subject property. These are pursuant to the standards of Land Development Code Division 20, specifically 20.24. The subject property is the southern of 2 vacant lots just south of 29th Avenue, to the west of Passagrille Way, and to the east of Sunset Way. Here's some isometric renderings of the property. The applicant has a 3D modeling software that they provided staff. It was uploaded with the staff report. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to take a look at it, but these are just screenshots of that rendering software, showing the west side at the top facing or looking from Passagrille Way, the east on the bottom looking from Sunset. And then you have looking to the north, which is from the southern property at the top, and then to the south, which would be from 29th Avenue, or from the vacant property just south of 29th.
Can I go back there for a second? I have a question. I guess so the pool would be on Passagrille Way?
It would be on Sunset Way. That's the
Garage doors on Passagrille.
Okay, well, yes, what I'm trying to figure out. So the top thing says north, so I'm looking to my north, right? It's not a north view.
correct, looking to the north. This is a front elevation. This was updated just recently. It was after the staff report was published, so there have been some modifications. I'll get into the secondary frontage standard in a moment, but I just wanted to point out that the applicant is currently proposing a variance for the height of the structure. The maximum height is 32 feet as measured from either the design flood elevation, which for this property is 10 feet, or for 8 feet above grade, which would put that at 12 feet above mean sea level, which is 8 feet above grade. The elevator in this front elevation is about 2 feet taller than would be allowed based under the code standards of 32 feet from that 8-foot mark. It's about 42 feet above grade where 40 feet is allowed. And the applicant has submitted a newer design even past this, which was submitted on Tuesday, so they can speak more to the variance that they're proposing. Looking at the site plan, the building is compliant with the setbacks, but the pool, because this is a through lot, any accessory structure in the rear of the lot needs to comply with the rear setback. Typically, when you have an interior lot or a lot that faces the bay or the beach, there are certain accessory structures like pools and sheds and so on that are allowed to encroach into the rear yard. That is not the case with a through lot. There is a requirement that there be a 15-foot rear setback. The applicant's showing 10 feet for the pool. They are aware of this requirement, and it's not part of the design review generally. I'm not sure if there are going to be modifications for the pool or if they are intending to apply for a variance for that in conjunction with the height of the home. I just wanted to point out that there is a utility pad on the north side of the structure there. It's permitted to be set back 2 feet from the side yard. They're showing 1 foot 11 inches, so it's just 1 inch off there. And I pointed out to the applicant during the earlier design review prior to the staff report being published that there was a requirement for additional frontage landscaping. They have added additional landscaping. This was sent to me about an hour before the meeting, so I haven't had an opportunity to review it. But they do have site plan, an updated site plan that they'll be showing the board in a moment. So here are the adjacent properties, looking to the left neighbor to the south, 2812 Passigrove Way. The right neighbor, 2815 Passigrove Way. That should say western neighbor, or sorry, northern neighbor on the bottom left, 2900 Passigrove Way. The bottom right should say western neighbor, that's 2813 Sunset Way. As you can see, generally 2-story properties. There is 1 3-story to the west of the property at 2813. So staff performed an initial design review. Staff found the following elements to be sufficiently present in the design based on the ordinance. The structure does have a clear primary mass. There are voids in the facade massing, windows, openings. There is a defined entryway on the southern frontage of the property that is fairly well defined. It provides a void in the front mass. There are windows in varying yet similar arrangements. What you saw in your staff report, I believe, was the 3rd revision of this. It has come a long way in the window design. The applicant has standardized the windows across the front of the structure. We find that there's now an appropriate ratio between the bottom and top half of the structure. There is clear visual weight at the bottom of the structure to support the upper part. And there's also proximity and similarity rhythms in the design, complementary objects in the facade of the structure, and common textures and finish palettes for the pictures and finishes and textures. Regarding items that staff would like to see additional support from the applicant for is a secondary massing. Now again, this has been updated since the staff report was published. The applicant has taken the balcony portion of the structure and set it out separate from the primary mass. You can see that on the right side. They've also reduced the size of that. I do feel that there's more of a defined secondary mass than the design that went out with the staff report. But again, that was based on the recommendation made in the staff report. I still feel that there could be some additional work done with the vertical consistency. If you look just right at the center line of that structure, there seems to be additional visual weight on the left side of the structure compared to the right. There is the offset of that secondary mass. Compared with the design that went out with the staff report, I do feel that it's a little bit more balanced, but I would like an explanation either from the applicant or for a little bit more of a balance visually looking at the front facade of the structure from Passigrove Way. So just going through those requirements again, I covered the 3 items under 1. The applicant will need to update the site plan to show the landscaping requirements. There are some additional trees required at the front. They're actually showing 2 canopy trees currently, sycamores. The code calls for understory trees, things like crepe myrtles, holly trees that don't grow to the height, just to be more in line with an urban historic district. There's also some required landscaping at the rear of the structure, which might help to offset the pool being as close to the secondary frontage as it is. The required rear setback is 15 feet. As I pointed out before, there is a pool shown at 10 feet. That would either need to be part of the variance application that moves forward with the height variance, or they would need to modify the pool placement. And then again, the variance is required for the height. In terms of recommendations, I had 3 recommendations. I recommend that the ground cover used in the front planter area be vegetative. Currently, they're showing a good amount of gravel. Looking at the adjacent properties, they tend to have more vegetative green space in the front, so I'm recommending that ground cover be primarily vegetative. We would like a more thorough explanation for the reason for the height variance. That's not necessarily in the purview of the Historic Preservation Board. It's not something you need to make a recommendation to the Board of Adjustment on, but it might affect the overall design of the structure if the variance is denied or if it is redesigned. So we do just want the applicant to speak to that, the need for that height variance. There had been rooftop mechanical equipment that was on the initial rendering for this. It's still present, but it looks like it's been moved further back along the roof line. It's not as visible from someone standing on Paso Girl Way looking up now. So I had recommended some kind of a parapet or some other kind of screening for the rooftop AC units. It appears they've been moved far enough back now that they may not be directly visible from Paso Girl Way. And as always, these are recommendations. If the Historic Preservation Board wishes to do so, and if you find it would make the structure more compatible with the neighborhood, you're always welcome to make additional recommendations. You can either make those recommendations to staff to review during the building permit application process. This was turned in originally as an application. Staff caught it and brought it to the Historic Board, so it's something that we would look at during the building permit review. Or you're welcome to request that we bring it back to you to make sure that the recommendations have been integrated. And we ask that you move to approve design case 23077 with the required and recommended items provided by staff. As I mentioned, the applicant is present. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
What is the current setback, the side setbacks, and what is the variance that they're requesting?
The side setbacks do meet. The requirement is 5 feet, and they are showing 5 feet for the side setback. There is that utility platform on the north side. I believe it's a meter platform that they're showing it 1 inch closer to the side yard, so I just wanted to point it out for the applicant's benefit. But if they make that meet the 2-foot side yard, they wouldn't need any variances as it pertains to the side setback.
And if I may ask, the pool in the back, that is not within the required setback, or?
It's within the required rear setback. Because this is a through lot, any structure in the rear yard, including pools, needs to meet a 15-foot rear setback. If this were, typically with waterfront lots or with interior lots, there's an encroachment allowed, but it's not allowed for lots that have the double frontage on each side. So it does meet the required side yard, but it's 5 feet closer to the Sunset Way property line than would be allowed by code.
So I have a question regarding the garages. Is it not true that in this zoning that the garages, if there's an alley or rear property access, that the garages should not front Paso Girl Way?
That's part of the recommended amendments to the code that we'll be talking about in 2 weeks. But as it stands currently, the code specifically allows for driveways in any of the zones, the 4 zones of the lot. So they would be allowed access from Paso Girl Way.
I remember discussing this in a board meeting, not outside of the board meeting, but when the property went on the market pre-construction to be built, publicly marketed, and we had that conversation regarding the garages and that should they be allowed on Paso Girl Way if there's a rear access to the property, and we had determined that they should not be.
I think what Brandon is saying, though, it's just not in your code yet. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. And I can pull up the standard as the applicant makes their presentation, but there is a standard that allows for driveways specifically in any zone. Now, that is a recommended amendment that we're bringing forward in 2 weeks as part of the workshop, but it's not currently in the code standards as far as I'm aware.
Question along that same line, though. So in a lot like this, which is a interior lot, is the homeowner allowed to basically elect where he wants to put his front door? I mean, right now, Sunset Way, obviously, a lot of people have driveways on Sunset Way. There's no, I guess my question is, there's no requirement that the front of the house be on Pass Girl Way. Does he have an option?
It's not, there's nothing in the code that prohibits it facing one direction or the other. We address the lot to the direction of the front door, so if it's on Pass Girl Way, it would be.
It's a Pass Girl.
It would be addressed that way,
gotcha.
correct.
Okay. So, and because that right now is just a vacant lot, right?
Correct.
So
yes.
that would require curb cuts and things like that to build it as such, right?
Correct.
Even if you reversed it, it would still require that because it's a vacant lot either way. Okay. You also said something, and we'll ask the applicant, but about some of these variances. I understand the pool one you just mentioned, but there was, I may have missed it, and again, my computer's not giving me my agenda packet. It did before, so I'm a little in the dark here. There was a height aspect, and I thought you say 12 feet at one point and 2 feet, or is there two different height issues?
Let me get back to the, is it visible there?
One on the height.
It's a variance of 2.1 feet for the elevator shaft that's shown up there in green. I don't know that that's totally proportional, but the maximum height is 32 feet from either design flood or 8 feet above grade. They're using the 8 feet above grade standard. And the top of the shaft enclosure would be 34 feet, 1 inch above.
And it would be your understanding that would house the mechanics of the elevator shaft, I guess?
Correct. There is a rooftop deck, and I'll see if I can show that on the, you can see that on the south-facing elevation there. There's the parapet, and then there's a roof-facing deck. I'd ask the applicant, and again, this is all within the last day or so, and another present can speak to this, if the shaft enclosure was necessary to, the height of the shaft enclosure was necessary to access the interior rooms of the home, or if it was just to access the rooftop deck. It appears to just be for the rooftop deck, that the height is required to be that distance, but they could speak more to that.
Okay, so to clarify, the elevator goes up to the roof?
Correct, yes.
Okay. But it may not stop at the second or third floor? Or
I believe it is at each floor.
I think so, all right. So essentially, even though it's a rooftop, it's a 4-story elevator.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Brandon, I had another question about the width. So we're saying that the setbacks on the side are 5 feet. That's standard, right?
Correct, yes.
So it looks like the air conditioning mechanism is 3 feet wide? Is that where the and then there's 2 feet left to pass by, so 5 feet in width. You've got 3 feet for the raised air conditioner.
I believe the AC units are on the roof.
What Holly's seeing is the stairs for access for the power, for the
Yes.
electric meter.
So then that leaves 2 feet in clear passage.
Correct. That's the minimum code standard. If there's equipment in the side yard, if it's elevated, it does need to meet the setback. But for just stairs up to the meter, it is allowed that 3 feet encroachment. So a 2 foot setback would be correct. That'd be the minimum.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any guidelines for the rooftop pavilion or deck or whatever we're calling it? Are there any guidelines as to what's permitted up on the rooftop? So I feel like it's a holiday song, Up on the Rooftop. But are there any guidelines as to, we're not allowed to do, or it's not permitted to have a bathroom upstairs on that rooftop or anything like that?
Not through the zoning code. Given that it's in Pass Grill, there are the more restrictive height standards. Typically, there's an allowance for an additional 10 feet above the roof line for non-habitable features that would include a bathroom, but it wouldn't include things like stairs. They need to get this variance for the elevator shaft enclosure specifically because they're in Paso Grill. They would meet the absolute maximum allowable height for the top of the parapet at 28 feet. That measurement right there on the right side does show 28 feet, and they are meeting the maximum. So anything above that could only be either the pitch of the roof or mechanical equipment to allow that additional 4 feet, which is the reason for that variance. So they want to be able to go back at some point and install a restroom or expand the size of the deck or something like that and add additional features without getting another variance.
And just so I'm clear, the parapet is what, 3 feet high? Or I don't know. Can you tell me?
Let's see.
Or 4 feet, maybe, I don't know.
It shows there. I can't make out the numbers.
And is that on the left-hand side? I should be able to figure that out?
Yes. I believe it's 39 feet NAVD to the top of the parapet, and I believe that's 35. I thought it was 4 feet, but the applicant, I believe, has larger scale plans. Mm-hmm.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Brandon? Okay, can we have the applicant come up then?
Show them a better 3D perspective.
It can't be hooked up, but I think if you're able to lay your screen flat, you could show it through the document camera. There you go. Yeah, if you, right there, just in the center. There we go.
Color's a little off. So the questions about we call it a moon deck. Just, nobody's gonna go out there and around here in the summertime.
Do you mind stating your name for the record?
Yeah.
But we look at it more like.
Put your name for the record, please.
I'm sorry?
Say your name for the record. So.
My name is Ron Wilson with Peregrine Construction Group.
Okay, thank you.
So we're using it, we're wanting it to be a moon deck. It's primarily, if it's the set of stairs there comes out of the master bedroom. There are potential buyers on it right now, but they're totally waiting for the approval of the elevator shaft because one of the grandfathers in a wheelchair. So they want to be able to have him come up to the moon deck. The elevator does go from the garage level through every floor of the house. I did print. If I could get, I got 5 of them if I can pass them out. But it's mainly the last page where some of the items he was talking about that needed to be changed. When we got the agenda for this meeting, we read through everything and immediately jumped on it and said we didn't want to come in here and run into, we don't have good enough secondary mass, so we went ahead and made the changes beforehand of this meeting. Which is,
While you're doing that, I wanted to say, Chair Larry, on the sketch that I have up here, it's 36 feet moon deck floor, 39 feet top of the railing, so it's a 3-foot railing or
Do the math
wall.
on that
So
again.
36 feet moon deck floor
Yeah, and 39.
and 39 feet top of railing, so it's a
Okay.
3-foot railing.
right, correct.
Is that going to be railing or is it going to be wall?
Or you're going to do, it's going to be a block wall. It's concrete deck on top of that moon deck is. So
I had a question about the elevator shaft
Okay.
on the roof.
yes.
It looks like that's almost like a freestanding building with a door. The 2.1 variance that you need, could the same effect be achieved if you didn't have, if you had a flat roof instead of an arched roof?
I don't believe so, just because of each floor level height. We had to have some type of floor truss system in there. In this case, on that level, it's called the Hambro truss system. It's basically like typical wood floor joists, but they're steel, and they're designed so that then sheets go down on top of that, and it gets poured concrete. So if we did a flat roof, it would still, the moon deck itself would still be the same height.
So you need, in order to operate the elevator, you need that 2.1.
We need 8 foot. We're gonna have, even though the other floors have, the garage floor's 9 foot, the second floor is 10 foot, the third floor is 9'4", we're using a 7-foot cab just so we could shorten the top of that elevator, the top of the moon deck part of it. You had to have a minimum of 8 foot inside of that shaft, even for a 7-foot cab. So by the time that thing gets up to the top, we still had to have a minimum of 8-foot head height in there. And then we put as minimal slope on that as we could. We got a 112 slope on that. It's a small roof, so that's not really the issue. But we tightened it down as much as we felt we could. You know, a house in this price range, to try, you know, we could go back and give it 8-foot ceilings on one of the floors. Nobody's gonna want that when they're buying a home like this. So we felt like squeezing the main living area down to 10 foot, where typically all of our homes are at least 11'4" ceilings, sometimes 12-foot ceilings. We got down to 10 foot on this one, 9'4" on the bedroom level, which is the third level. So, I mean, we tried to do everything we could. We squashed the elevator shaft. We went with a 7-foot cab, and it's still leaving us 25 inches above the max height. So,
Okay, thank you.
we are going to really want to try to push for the variance.
Okay, let me just say, I'm still waiting for the day for a new house to come in without variances already being built into it. I mean, weren't you aware of what the rules were when you bought the property?
I wasn't the one that bought the property, but I will say this. When the design was initially started on this house, it was assumed, it was a wrong assumption, but it was RU2 zoning, not the passive grill overlay RU2. So some of those issues were initially missed right in the beginning, mainly the height. The setbacks I thought we had correct, other than, the setbacks would have been correct in the RU2 district, but once we get into the passive grill overlay, the front setback gets way shorter, moves it up closer to the front. So for the pool right now, I looked on the land development code, and for
The underlying zone, is that right? But the passive grill overlay provides you setbacks that you want to take advantage of, right? But then there's some aspects that, I guess on the height that are different. I don't know if that's right. Is that right, Brandon, what I'm saying?
Head shaking from staff over there.
Typically, there is an option on which a design type is used, but because this is an undersized lot, it doesn't meet the width required for an RU2 property. They have to build to the overlay.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you for clarifying that. Okay.
And then with the pool setback, we're not really necessarily looking for a variance for that. We're at 12 foot now to the front setback. We could go to 10. I don't think we're going to do that. We're going to try to slide everything up to the 10. I think we want to leave it where it is, and we're just going to have the pool company's just going to have to modify the pool so that it fits within that setback.
Well, with no disrespect, you know, you're building this as a spec house to sell, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so a moment ago when you said that the grandfather has a wheelchair to wheel out onto the moonroof, well, that's a bit of a pig in the poke if they don't buy that, right?
No, we do actually have customers right now. That's the only thing they're waiting for. They don't want the house if we don't get the elevator.
Well, okay, so let's say you build it and then they say they don't want to buy it.
Well, they'll be under contract before that. If we get the elevator approved, they'll be on contract. It's already way down the line for them on.
Okay, I'm just, you know, we're concerned about height. And it seems like the more we get concerned about it, the more high houses get. And so, you know, when you come in on a brand new house and you want to and I wonder, it's a question I have for the city. I know I think you're precluded from building a 4-story house, and the fact that you have a 4-story elevator, it kind of sticks in my craw a little bit, you know, because it sounds like the only reason in this particular case, no offense to the disabled, is because there's a person in a wheelchair. But this is a house that's going to probably last for 50 or 80 or who knows how many years after these people decide they might want to flip it. And so, you know, it's a bit disconcerting. And first off, I'd just like to say that we need to have this come back in because there's too many last-minute changes where we're waiting to see what's going to happen and not happen, that I would be comfortable in saying, okay, you know, we've seen enough. I mean, some of this stuff just came in yesterday, I guess. No, I'm not saying that's your fault. I'm just saying for the timing of this thing, if we're supposed to do what our job is, I think we need to be able to see what the final is for all this stuff. And I don't know procedurally whether the variance needs to come before our approval, or we have to approve it and then they can go get the variance. You know, it seems kind of in a difficult situation where, you know, I may have a real problem with it. You said the design element might change depending on the variance, if it's approved or not. And so is that something that procedurally occurs before it comes to us, or is that something that happens afterwards? And with all the little aspects about this, you know, I'm not particularly happy with the pool being, I mean, we live at the beach. Not everyone's got to have a pool. Everyone's got to have a view of the beach, even though they're just 50 feet away. And so every time we make a variance, the exception becomes the norm. And so then everybody comes in and automatically needs a variance for the house when the standards are pretty well set. So, you know, not to sound harsh, but it's not my concern, or it's not the city's concern, the historical board's concern, that you may need this variances to do what you want to do to make your money or sell your house. I mean, that's on you all, not on us. And so I just want to make sure that, you know, we make the right decision. So, you know, I've said my 2 cents about this stuff, but I'm not, you know, I don't want to sit here and come back and find out later that, oh, we said it was, you know, we'll pass it on to the staff, and then you go get all these variances, and we go, that really wasn't what we were, you know, thinking should happen. So, you know, I think we should just pass this whole thing until we find out how you've rectified some of the issues that the city has brought up, and then we can relook at it at that point. Because I just think there's too many questions out there for us to try to come to a decision today. I don't know how y'all feel about it.
Go ahead.
You know?
Well, and to that, when we're talking about trying to keep continuity with what we're approving and not approving, just so we're keeping with the standards. And like you said, once a variance has been requested and approved, that becomes the norm. It's going to be much more difficult in the future to say to someone else, no, you can't have a variance. My concern would be, could all of these variances, if it goes that route, be heard in the same hearing, so it's not 1 month is one variance, the next month is another variance, and so that the thought process gets kind of lost.
So to answer,
Where in the process do the variances, requesting of the variances come in? Once we've voted on it, or if we were to say, well, as Bill said, take care of some of these issues already, and then come back to us, then you can request a variance. How does that process work?
so multiple questions, so I'll just go through it where it makes sense for me. Variances, one application, you can have multiple variances, so it will be one hearing. All right, so you can request 3 or 4 variances. It's one application, one hearing at one time. All of them will be heard.
All of them.
Right, so that's how it works for the Board of Adjustment now. And while I appreciate the questioning and everything that's occurring, I just want to be clear that we are here today to determine the compatibility with the overlay based on the design of the home. Right, that is what is in your peer review today. And I understand the reservations on height and setbacks and things of that nature, but and not to limit what you all are doing, but there's a different board that handles variances, right? That's the Board of Adjustment that will determine whether the height is appropriate or whether the pool is appropriate, and that's a different body. You all today are looking at the design and saying, you know what, this fits into the character of the overlay, or maybe we can help the facade here a little bit. I'd like some more landscaping over here. That's essentially why it's in front of you today. And mind you, the code doesn't require it. This is kind of what we've been talking about for the last year and a half, where we're making a conscious effort to bring it in front of you, so that we don't have a situation like Tara presented, where you have all these homes that kind of don't meet what the overlay was intended to do. So I just want to kind of make that clear.
Right, and I appreciate that, and I guess the issue, though, is, okay, we have the pastoral overlay, which is supposed to obviously have new structures fit into what already exists, right? The scale of this is beyond what the overlay allows, because they need the variance for this, that, and the other. So if they get those variances, then the scale's off and it doesn't fit the overlay.
If I can say, we're not going to be looking for a pool variance, and I think the other thing he pointed out was our meter pad is 1 inch into the setback. We're not looking for that variance. We're not looking for the pool variance. The only variance we want to ask for is for the elevator. Any other district in your city allows for the chimney, antenna, elevator shaft to exceed the max height by 10 feet. We're not even asking for that. We're asking for 2 feet, and it's located in the center of the house. If you're standing on the ground down here, you're never going to see that elevator shaft at all. It's not blocking any neighbor's view, and again, it's 2 feet.
So
we're not asking for
a question. Just follow. So if you're not going to ask for a variance on the pool, are you modifying your design?
Yes, we will have the pool company modify their design.
So then I do think it's appropriate to bring the new design with the only thing out there being the height back to the board, because it may change the overall. That's different if you're not going to ask, but I just want to be clear for the record. There's currently nothing on this property.
No, I know.
Correct.
Right, no, I just want to be clear to the applicant too. There's currently nothing on the property. So in order to meet height, I mean, I sit for the Board of Adjustment as well. I don't know if you're going to get a favorable staff report. You know, I mean, these are things that are going to have to occur, but I wouldn't say it's appropriate to bring it to you after the Board of Adjustment. I don't think that's the appropriate order of procedure.
One thing that's really important that you said yourself is any other neighborhood in the city would allow this without a problem. The whole point is Pasadena Historic District is not every other neighborhood in the city. You know, it's special, and we're here to try and keep it that way. So to compare every other neighborhood in the city, yep, you got it. Rooftop deck, elevator to the top, have yourself a party. But Pasadena, I don't know.
I don't feel comfortable either, honestly. The height absolutely is a concern. The elevator shaft is a concern. The moon deck, I'm worried about what could foreseeably down the road. I mean, so if there's a variance allowed for one thing, down the road, are we going to come back for a variance to enclose it and create more space? It's just, I feel like there's a lot of variances and a lot of things being asked for that I don't feel comfortable with.
Well, you know, Matthew, I'm going to reiterate this, so let's talk about this a little bit more about, I understand, I'm with you 100% on if he has a new plan where the pool's been changed, how that could change things in general. And I realize it is only 2 feet, and I'm not worried about the setback, the inch setback, all that kind of stuff, but the 2 feet on the rooftop, and I don't disagree with what the gentleman has said, that you really aren't going to see it from where you are. I'm more concerned with, you know, how this becomes precedent to some degree, because, you know, this house is typical of the pastoral houses that have been built in the last 10 years, but it's not typical of the houses in the historic district. And so we're not here to change that stuff. We have to live with what we live with, okay? But I'm thinking that if variances are such that could affect the scale or the look of the whole house, then that should be a situation where we need to know what's going to happen before it happens.
So the thing about the variance is it's not going to change the design of the home, which is what's in front of you today.
Well, I guess I'm looking at it from a compatibility and a scale point of view. That's what I'm saying, which I think is something we can look at. Of course it is. Which is the whole key thing about Pass Grill is scale. So this is a small lot. It's built to every inch that it can possibly be, east, west, north, south, up to the sky. We're going to have to put a curb cut in. I'm not, I recognize all that stuff, but it's, it's max. And they want it to be max plus.
Well, and that's the benefit of the overlay, because you get smaller setbacks or side yard setbacks, right? So you can put, that's just, so while he said, we thought we were going to use RU2, or if you were in RU2, you wouldn't have a 5-foot setback, you'd have a 10-foot one, and the house would be smaller. So he's actually getting a benefit of the overlay.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to cross paths. I personally think facade, windows, design, that's really what you should be looking at right now, because the Board of Adjustment, and I can tell you, I've never sat at the board and them granted a height variance, but things can happen, right? There could be good reasons for it. But if he's going to modify the pool and things like that and change the configuration of what's in front of you today, I think that's appropriate to bring back in front of you.
Well, there was a couple things, and Brandon, let me ask you this. I know there's the pool issue, there was some landscaping. There was a few things that popped out in the last day or something that I don't know if we've had access to or not. I'm just trying to get a kind of a list of things that...
The width, with the setbacks being 5, now they're going to be 3, the height, and the pool.
I think the setbacks are still 5. That hasn't changed, correct? The only thing encroaching in a setback
You have to
is
get a variance.
No. The
No,
only
not
thing
for the
encroaching in a setback is the stairway for the electric meter. That's all.
And we're not trying to permit the pool either. That'll be if a pool gets done, that'll be it's pulled by others. It'll be during our build process, a pool company will come in and submit for a permit.
But this is being sold with a pool,
Yes,
with a
they
pool in the back.
Correct. And so we already told them that what's going to have to happen is the pool's pretty wide now. I think it's 25 feet wide. They're just have to shorten it to 20 feet wide.
I have
And
a
it
general
fits.
question regarding pools. Is a pool calculated as impervious? It is, okay.
Well, and then so essentially, just to clarify this, let's say you approve it, the variance approve it. Are you saying that whoever buys this could completely turn this into something different?
No. I'm saying we're not in here permitting the pool. We're not trying to come in here and get a variance for the pool or anything. The pool's not, just because he stated that has to be within 15 feet, when the pool's actually designed and they come in here to do the actual pool permit, it will be fitting inside of that setback. And all they're going to do is take what I'm showing and reduce the width of it by 5 feet.
I guess it was on the site plan as submitted.
It says pool by others on the site plan. Future pool by others.
So maybe submit a site plan without a pool so that it's not part of the stamp through there. If it's not going to be part of the permit process, then make sure it's not inadvertently approved just because it happens to be drawn in there.
Well, see, that was, what we ran at the beginning about where's the front and where's the back,
Understood.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm sorry, Brandon, you stood up and then there were some other aspects. There was that there's been some changes. I don't know if you've seen them or there's some things you want to see be done before you can make a final decision. And can you tell me what those were again?
And we can give them all, and just show them that.
Sure.
So as of Tuesday, the staff report had recommended 3 things related to the design.
Okay.
I do feel that they're meeting the secondary frontage requirement based on the revisions they made to the balcony at the front. I haven't had a chance to sit down with the new...
Right. I mean, the 3 things you said, they've maybe been corrected, but you haven't had a chance to look at them. Is that right?
Correct. We got another revised plan in today, just about an hour or 2 ago, so I haven't had a chance to sit down and look at that. But the other 2 design items that I listed in the staff report, those are still out, you know.
And what were those again? That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to get it.
That was the vertical visual consistency and the symmetry or asymmetry of the facade, looking at the weighting of at the center line. Going back to that slide, those were the two items.
Was that two? I'm sorry.
And landscaping at the front where they changed for more vegetation versus the rock.
Correct. They have changed the vegetation at the front. I haven't had a chance to look at that either, though.
All right.
I did want to follow up on that question, Member Hawkinsmith. There is a requirement in the 8th Avenue district that if a lot has alley access, that they will not receive access from the front yard or driveway. That is something that's being recommended, and we'll discuss that at the workshop. But the standard in Paso Grills specifically is that if the frontage requirements are met, those are the landscaping and the secondary frontage requirements. Driveways are allowed in any zone, so the front, side, or rear yard. Driveways are permitted, at least as it is currently written.
Thank you for checking that.
Sure.
Sir, anything else you want to tell us?
What's that?
No, do you have anything else you want to add or say?
I don't believe so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think we could, my recommendation is this, Brandon, is this something you can look at and have on the next meeting in 30 days? Have that taken care of? Can we just pass this to that date with the revised plans?
I guess just so I understand, what's the reasoning?
One, there's 3 things that need to be done that we just got information about on a couple of the things that Brandon had a chance to look at. So he had questions that they've apparently answered, but I'm not comfortable in looking at that as we sit here right at this moment. And so I think that's the real reason, is the poor timing. I mean,
So we could
if we're supposed to do
either
it,
approve it with the recommended changes or disapprove it, and it goes on to the next section anyway, but we're on record of not liking it.
You could do that. But I just think, just to be clear to the Board of Adjustment, who's going to hear this, I think specificity is important, right? Because respectfully, they're the ones looking at height, so denying it for height is not.
I get it. No, I understand that.
But if you say, I don't like the second frontage, right, or I think more landscaping could be on the western side or the eastern side, or more foliage around the pool, or just something, I think that would be a little bit.
Okay. I think that's a bit hard just to talk in general. When we sit here and look at these things 2 weeks in advance, if I start saying, I'm a plant guy, okay? Hey, I wish they had trees all over the place. I'm not, you just can't come in and tell people where they got to put trees, I think, sometimes, So, but if they present something to us that's unfinished, because there's questions that need to be answered, then I think it's only fair that we get to see it when it's finished. And so I think
that's the board's.
I mean, for a couple reasons. One is, I would say it encourages people to get the full drawings in, right away, and not be dilatory, and it makes our job easier because we don't have to be guessing as much.
Welcome to our world.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my reasons.
That's all we do, back and forth.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, is there any concern about the compatibility with the overlay as it currently is designed?
I don't think there's, I think I have to concede a bit to staff. It's a bit of a, if they make a recommendation and that's the way it is, that's the hard part, is the aesthetics of things. You can get an argument with staff about things. So.
No, I don't think I'm trying to.
No, I get that. I know what you're trying to do here.
Yeah,
move it along. Okay, I get it.
Well, not away from the board. I just think, personally, I just don't want to be here next month and everything's fixed, but then we're still talking about height and stuff.
Okay. Is there a way that we can have, maybe this way, maybe we have Brandon come back next month telling us what the changes have been, and we can just kind of sit with that. We could vote then, whether we disagree with it or agree with it, and then the city can keep chugging along, since we're just advising people anyway.
I guess, but for a staff report, because obviously this is something that it's kind of newer in what we're doing, right? And I want to be sure that we're providing you all what you need to determine compatibility, right? So as we bring these applications forward, there's pictures of other houses, but is there something that we can add to the materials that would kind of better serve you as a board to say, okay, this looks in line with the others, or this doesn't?
I don't feel as though the aesthetic is compatible with the historic elements of Passick Row.
Okay.
And I don't either, but we've been building houses like this for the last 10 years, so I
Yeah,
said.
but that's why we're moving forward.
Well,
and
I know, I get that.
so do we just keep saying, we're just going to continue and allow it, or do we say?
Well, I think in a couple weeks, when we have a workshop, we're gonna work on that stuff a little bit. And I would point out, just so you're clear, I'm not trying to put him in a trick box that if we somehow pass something the next month or 2 months, that suddenly he has a new set of rules he's gotta go by. Because I think he's perfected his time frame when he's come in under the rules of which he has to abide by. So I'm not trying to do that, if that's a suspicion,
Let me ask you this. So if we were to approve this, but with including the staff recommendations, however, if we think the scale of this building is not compatible with the lot size, because variances have to be asked for, those variance requests go before a different board. If we have doubts about that or disapproval, will the variance board be privy to that information?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Well, I would hope,
Well, I
hope
think
the answer would be yes, absolutely.
Regarding
Okay, let me
scale
rephrase.
of the structure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
The staff that writes the report is sitting right there.
I understand.
I think though regarding the scale of the structure itself meets all of the setback and height requirements.
Correct.
The
Right.
difference is the tower for the elevator on the 4th floor
Correct.
and the pool, which may or may not happen when someone moves into this house. So really, as far as scale, the only thing outside of the permitted scale is that tower for the elevator. So you can't make them build a tiny house because we don't like, if it's within the parameters of
Right.
the building code, then they can put it there.
But the variance for the roof is a concern of ours. It not being within the parameters that we've set. So if that were to go, we have no power in the variance to be able to have our voices heard as being concerned about that, so that when the variance board does meet, they can take a little bit more time with this and say, is this compatible or is it not compatible?
And so because it's not really a custom home, it's sort of a custom home because you have a specific buyer in mind. But if it were a custom home, you could say you get 8-foot ceilings and an elevator, or you get 9-foot ceilings, no rooftop elevator. And that's what would happen without a variance, correct? No?
Well,
And I
That
think,
sounds right.
I think you hit it super,
well,
can't do anything with setbacks, right? Can't do anything.
It is
with-
what it is.
yes, but, okay, for example, let me just bring this up too. Okay, they need this because they have a 9-foot, a 10-foot, and a 9-4 ceiling. That's what they decide they want to have, okay? They don't have to build a 9-foot first floor. They could build a 5-foot first floor, and it would still fit the flood requirements. So that would bring the whole house down 5 feet, or 4 feet, and then we wouldn't have this issue.
Well, if the house was down 2.1 feet, we wouldn't have this issue.
Exactly,
But again, the design compatibility is not what the Board of Adjustment's gonna look at. The Board of Adjustment's gonna look at specific criteria and say, you either meet this and I approve you, or you don't and I deny you.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that they could do a design where they wouldn't need the variance. And so what I'm saying is you know, we're upset, let's say, on Paschal, the houses are being built so high and people always come in with variances to make them higher. Okay, they don't have to have a 9-foot first floor. Above floods like 4 or 5 feet. So they could make an option to not have the first floor could be a crawl space. I mean, they could do that, and then the whole line would be down more. And then it would be more compatible with the size and scale of Paso Grill. Because most of the houses built there didn't put a 10-foot floor on the bottom because they didn't have to abide by FEMA. So, you know, it's kind of like the answers are all within the draftsman's pen. And we're asked to, like, you know, facilitate what they want to do because that makes it more, they can sell it easier. And I'm not so sure that's really what our position should be here.
So let's talk about a scenario in which they needed no variances.
Okay?
Okay. So elevator shaft is 2.1 feet lower, pool is within the setback,
Yep.
no variances at all.
Yep.
City's made a commitment to bring these things in front of you anyways, right?
Right.
Because of the fact that it's in the overlay.
Yep.
So what would that conversation look like?
It would.
Would it just pass because you feel like it meets compatibility? Like, that's what I'm trying to get you to focus on. Is like, is it compatible?
The way it is set right now, I don't think we'd have any kind of an argument. I mean, and this is a good exercise we're having here. I don't think we'd have any argument. I think our real argument is the way the codes are now, which is what he's going to build under, and it's understandable, but the way the codes may be in the future may be a little bit different, or perhaps.
Well,
And that's an argument for a later date, but, you know, it doesn't change the fact that they've come in and to do what they want to do, they need to get variances, which is not us, but it is our neighborhood, and it is within the city.
Then that would be, if you really feel strongly, come to that Board of Adjustment meeting and you can have public comment. So I think what Matthew's trying to say is, for you all, it's the design and how it is compatible in the overlay.
I get it. And then
And if they don't get variances, that's it, you know?
If they don't get variances, then they'll have to modify their design.
No, I get that, and I think I'll fall back a little bit on my argument that, you know, if you have to do a lot of changes, then why are we even looking at it now? Why can't we look at it when it's been finalized? Not finalized, I mean, with the Board of Adjustment.
Because I think it's important, since the Board of Adjustment does not, they may look at compatibility with surrounding properties, but you guys are the Historic Preservation Board looking at compatibility for the historic district. There's a different outlook on this. The Board of Adjustment's not looking at compatibility for the district. They're looking at a radius of houses and says, okay, this fits in.
Okay.
Well, and the 4 homes that were depicted in the presentation, one of them is right next door to the south, and their parking is on Sunset Wayside. It's not on the Paso Grill Wayside. The other 2 homes are on the opposite side of Paso Grill Way. They have to have parking in the front because their rear yard is water. So they have garages on the front.
The house to the south has parking both front and rear.
They have a drive. They don't have a garage.
Right.
I think they have a circular drive, but they don't have a garage.
They have cut, right. They have the cuts, so they have, you were saying the driveways were in the back, but they're not. They're both front and back. But it's only for the garage. You're right.
Right. And then the property to the north of it is a vacant lot. So we say, yes, great, put the garages on the front here. The garages are going to go on the front next door too. And aesthetically, that's what I don't love about this design. The garages on the front on Paso Grill Way. And not just because of the look, but because of traffic on Paso Grill Way. Just, you know, pulling in and out of there is hard. I think, you know, if I were given a choice living on Paso Grill Way, I want to go in and out the back. I wouldn't want to have to come in and out front. But I like the porches and pedestrian look to the front of the house on Paso Grill Way. If it's not possible, you know.
Okay, well, let's just put it this way. Maybe what we should do is just say that because all it is advice, I would make a motion that we disapprove this plan. Because it doesn't really make a difference, so we'll just register our...
That's not the best outlook here.
Okay.
I mean,
No, like what Tia just did is gave us feedback on what in the design she liked and did not like.
I like the change that was made with the roof line over the porch section where that's lowered a little bit from the main roof structure. That looks a lot warmer to me, brings it down a little bit to the pedestrian level. I don't have a problem with the side door entry. I don't have a problem with asymmetry. I understand the symmetrical desire of the design element here. I don't have a problem with asymmetry at all, but design-wise, I like the roof lowered over the porches. I wish the garages were on the back of the house. But otherwise, I think it's very pretty.
Well, and the staff came up with a few recommendations that have nothing to do with variance, like, for instance, the rooftop mechanical equipment be screened, the groundscaping, ground covers, some other things that I think beyond the variance that we can look at and say, yes, we agree with those, with the staff recommendations, anything that doesn't have to do with a variance. But I don't know how we move forward with this.
I think staff's recommended a motion with recommendations and things of that nature. I think as we do more of these, it may be becoming a little bit more natural, but what I'm trying to get at ultimately is I want to make sure you all have what you need as a board. And if there's more information we can include, or more pictures of surrounding it, or something that will make it easier for you all to determine the compatibility, at the end of the day, that's kind of what I'm trying to get at too. Because there's going to be a scenario down the road where a house comes in for a design review that does not need variances. And I don't know how that conversation is going to go. Right? Is it going to say, I like the facade, I don't, or, I like the porches? That's what I'm trying to help.
We have had those conversations before and added some landscaping here and there.
Okay.
And changed a little roof line or an awning.
But see, Matthew, the real kind of problem is, it's a subjective thing, okay, about some of the facades and the symmetry and that kind of thing. And, I think you'll recall when Tara was here a number of months ago that she went over a number of the recent builds, and she said she would have had a problem with certain things that were passed, okay? So then you have there's a difference between how the people who are not in charge but know that the professionals look at it. And I'm not a professional, I can say that, I'm familiar with the historic homes in Paso Grill, and this doesn't look historic or even look like it's even trying to be historic. It's just looking like a brand new house, and so, some other person may look at it and agree with me, and some other person may not. And so it's very difficult, especially when, well, I don't know, I just think it's hard for you to say what is it else we need. I mean, I could come in and start saying, well, I don't like this because I don't like flat roofs,
No, I think it's a tough question. And we're going through a lot of changes too with codes and stuff that may shrink, it may eventually shrink and get this. I think staff's done a good job though. I mean, they've recommended defined secondary frontage, vertical visual consistency, things that are appropriate in the overlay for you. So I don't want to diminish what they've done.
And I'm not at all. I'm just saying, I'm just saying there can be a difference between how people view these things individually. And so, it's hard for us to be put in this position. Well, anyway, so I go ahead, I'm sorry.
The staff have identified some tangible elements of design, and I would like to see some plans come back to us with these things addressed. Not necessarily having to do with the variance, more for the aesthetics, like the defining the secondary frontage, the landscaping plan, appropriate facade symmetry, those sort of things. That is something that we can do, we can ask for. We can approve this plan based on the staff recommendations, and that it comes back to us for review once again when these changes are made.
Yeah, I believe that's at your peer review, right, Brendan?
Yeah, I think that's what I was saying initially. More words.
And I want to make it clear, I'm not trying to push anything through, right? I mean, that's what the applicants, I'm just trying to, give you guys what you need,
So, if a motion is made to approve this based on staff recommendations, and then it comes back to us for review, then we're moving forward. And we can see the updated plans, and
And I do have a
And at
question.
that point, I'm sure the staff will also have looked at it and made recommendations. And then we can kind of begin again with the new plans.
I just have a procedural question, not to put you on the spot, Kristen or Brandon. In your presentation, you said bring it back before building permits are issued, correct? Which would be after variances?
It could be. Typically, when we bring these design reviews to you, they're not at the building permit stage yet. We caught this one when it came as a building permit, but queuing this up for Board of Adjustment, we want to be able to get it forward until the end of November. So even with that meeting, we have 2 more meetings we could bring it back to you, and it wouldn't disrupt any flow in the building permit process. So I think that would be fine in this case.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I would like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion that we approve this plan. This is for case 23077. We approve this plan based on staff recommendations, and that this item be brought back to this board for further review once the requirements and recommendations have been integrated into the design.
I only have to question, if we approve it, then haven't we approved it? I mean, we can't really approve it and then have another chance to unapprove it on review, can we? Or wouldn't a better motion just be just to pass this?
I'm trying to think of the motion.
Well, I mean, you're approving it with being brought back.
Yeah.
You're not approving it and then subset further discussion. I want like brought back.
We're requesting that the staff recommendations,
We're approving it with, just to get some information later.
and that it be brought back to us for review.
Deferring approval?
So, yeah, because I kind of was
I
thinking,
think we should
essentially
defer.
what you're doing is you're saying, hey, staff, I appreciate your recommendations, work through them, and then bring me an updated plan,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I think the motion,
No.
so the motion is, motion to have staff work through the recommendations and then bring back an updated plan prior to the Board of Adjustment in November.
I second that motion.
Well,
Amber, you okay with that?
Member Young, you're as the maker, can't make a motion.
Yeah.
You're gonna have
Okay, I can't remember what all you said. Okay. Regarding case 23077, I make a motion that the staff work with the applicant through this, regarding the staff recommendations, and bring it back to the board once all of the recommendations have been integrated into the design.
I second that motion.
Member Hurley,
Yes.
Member Young,
Yes.
Member Micklage,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hawkinsmith,
Yes.
Chair Lowry,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay.
Well done.
That brings us on to informational 5A. Thank you, Mr. Feinberg, for sitting through all of this, which is a lot split, case number 23079 at the property at 102 15th Avenue. Brandon?
So this is just a quick information item. We have the owner, Dave Feinberg, present. I had a quick staff report. I'll bring up the overhead to show the
Hold
former.
on for a second. Do we need to do the ex-party stuff, or is this quasi?
this is an interesting one,
quasi-judicial,
'cause
because it's information only?
This is going to end up in front of the commission, correct,
Sorry.
Brandon?
Well, right.
Yeah. So it's good practice.
Okay.
Everyone's been sworn in.
There's no action request.
I know.
That's what I was wondering, whether that made a difference.
I said it's good practice, but
Oh, so you want me to stand up and start recording it?
no, everyone's been sworn in.
Oh, okay, well,
You can still sit.
Ms. Piper,
It's okay. All right. I'll default to Amber.
Okay, good. That's what I wanted to make sure there's a difference between action and information. I assumed there would be.
It's been a long time.
Okay, proceed, sorry.
So this is 102 15th Avenue. It is comprised of Webster's Map, Warren Block C, lots 48 and 57. It is complete lots. It's currently one parcel ID. The lot formerly had a quadplex, two-story quadplex on it. That has since been demolished, and I have here the current surveys. Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what, it's underneath. So this is lot 57 and lot 48. They're equally sized, 50 by 100. The applicant is requesting the ability to split the lots. They aren't waiving necessarily their ability to rebuild the quadplex, rather. That is a special provision in Pass Grill. Any structure that was existing as of 2017 can be rebuilt. It needs to be made compliant with the floodplain ordinance. However, they are able to retain the certain number of units that they had before. In this case, it's 4, whereas the property is only entitled to 2 if it were newly built today. They are going to retain that even if they do proceed with this lot split. If they were to separately develop, they would abandon that right, but they are able to request a lot split without necessarily enacting it. If they were to keep the quadplex, they would be limited to the same square footage that was in place prior to the structure being demolished. It appears to be about 5,000 square feet. That seems...
It was maybe a smidge smaller.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, part of, one thing we wanted to do was consider building something brand new, but since the existing quadplex that we had was 23 and a half feet from each side property line and way far from the back, it's only under 5,000 square feet on 2 lots, so it's pretty small. So there's also the option of turning it into 2 separate single-family lots, which you could obviously go bigger, but I think I was told that you can't go larger than what you already had. So I was wondering if there was a way you could do that, like not much bigger, but instead of 2, 4, or 5,000 square foot houses, could you go like 1,000 square foot bigger, like 6,000 square feet or less, instead of being held at 48? I think we're 4850 is what the property was. But the lot split is required in case we sell a lot. I guess if we sell one of the lots, then the quadplex idea would be abandoned.
So if you do sell one of the lots, then are you able to build 2 and
No.
2, or does it just go to 1 and 1?
We've been discussing it for a long time, but it'll go to single family. Your opportunity has passed. There's a sunset. It's done. But after, I'm always a smart aleck. It will not be a good idea to be funny, but after sitting, I'm not going to do a chimney. I don't want to go ahead and do it. We generally would compliment what you were saying at the beginning, as I've been here for a while, so I do kind of know what you're supposed to do, and I try to do what you're supposed to do. So in a situation where we would have an opportunity to do exactly what we had, or if you could go slightly larger, there would be no variances ever asked, and we can easily do it without that. I think we're experimenting here, telling you what we're trying to do, and that way you're better prepared. But I mean, I think we would like to do something that's more beach, Caribbean style, something metal roof, something that looks like Pass Grill. The thing that I had discovered that really bothered me was where Pass Grill, when we redid our comp plan, we protected the single family element, and the character structure of multifamily is very important. And so for a while there, we thought, okay, we're not going to be able to do multifamily anymore. It just got overlooked. And even our property in particular was built in 1941. And while we were doing surveys of contributing and non-contributing properties, ours wasn't even included. It had vinyl siding over wood siding, so it didn't get recognized as being important. So, you know, but owning it almost 19 years, it had some issues. So doing something new would be fun. I've done very well at doing old, but it would be really fun to do something new and still have multifamily. I like doing that, and by accident, we did kind of naturally occurring affordable housing called NOAA, and that was by accident. We always had our rents under market rate by a lot, and it was because I thought we could make money once we sold it if we held it long enough, and that usually proves to be right. But we'd be excited in maybe doing the quadplex, but I was trying to see about your workshop coming up on the 17th, if that could be something I could go to discuss. What would you do if you had an opportunity to retain our multifamily, and where this property, I mean, we can easily meet the setbacks in height, depth, width, everything, but it would be nice to sacrifice 2 lots to come up with like 6,000 square feet if you're allowed to. And I could even see sticking with what we have. It's kind of like introducing a weakness or a power together. So if you want the opportunity to learn with me, I'd like to learn with you and see, or like Jerry Maguire would say, help me help you. But I think it's not just for me, it's more for what we want as a community. We really want that look like it's old. And that's kind of what I like to do, is take something that's brand new, if you could do it brand new, but really make it look like, how long's that been here? That's what I would be trying to do. So anyway, thank you, and thank you, Brandon, especially because I would say he's fantastic. He answers every time I email, and so I kind of picked on him, and I go right at him all the time. Matthew knows I do that, but you always answer, and sometimes it isn't the answer you want. But he gives you information really quick, especially during the pandemic. It was very difficult. But I don't know. After listening to what you can do or not do, I'm undecided. If I wanted to sell the lots, then they would become single-family homes, or go home and think about it before the 24th and say, you know, sometimes plan C or D winds up being your ultimate best plan. So right now I'm just presenting this as an opportunity to split the lots, but I'll clearly make my mind up before the 24th. And if you don't mind me visiting you on the 17th, I'm patient. I'll wait through anything, but I'd love to give you some ideas of what we'd like to do as far as setbacks, or what, if you tell me no, you can't do it, then I'm fine with that. But I'm going to depend on Brandon to help me get to that point, and you. And I think what you're doing is great. I would only make one comment, is every business is the same. We're just handling different things. So I think you have to trust your staff, because that's what they look at. But you are the eyes on what should look really good. And you know, it's not easy doing that. It's a learning curve. So I think you pretty much know what you want to see. And it's hurtful when you see, okay, people are going outside of what, you know, it'd be easier if you just go, wow, that's perfect. Everything is exactly what we want. And you just keep moving and keep chugging along. But it's just, sometimes you just got to trust that staff that they're probably not going to let anything get by them. That's what I would feel. I think you're in good shape. Well, thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you on the 17th.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Dave.
All right. Is this yours, Brandon?
Okay, moving on to 5B, I think that's you, Ms. Hawkinsmith.
So some local events coming up. Of course, we have Party Under the Lights this Saturday on 8th Avenue, which is always a good time. And then the Gulf Beaches Historical Museum, we are resurrecting a mini-style fish broil on November 4th. So not going full bore with the grills and everything, because things are still changing with regards to our parks out on Paso Grill. So until we have a permanent plan there, we don't want to build another fish broil and have it knocked down again. So we're just doing some great local restaurants are going to be participating in fish bread tasting, mullet hairstyle contest, some live music, just a really good fall day at the museum, and that's on November 4th from 11 to 3.
There's also a Volkswagen Bash on Saturday, the 14th, on 9th and 10th Avenue, too.
And it's the 30th anniversary for the museum.
See? Party.
So much.
Paso Grill.
What else is new?
Okay, moving on to 5C, we'll just kind of open discussion a little bit about the new change to the waste collection on Paso Grill. And I would just kind of point out, I know, and Matthew, I'm sure you're aware of some of this stuff, and Jennifer, you probably are too. I know there's been a lot of letters being sent, petitions of that nature. I've been privy to some of them, but not all of them, so I know that other people at the city have, you know, are aware of the complaints and whatever. But I would, from the historic preservation point of view, I think, as I've said, and many of us have said numerous times, I mean, this is exactly the reason that we're supposed to be here, is to give advice on things that have to do with the historic district. And I would point out that the alleys are uniquely past the grill. This is a perfect example of, if we had been involved in the decision to shut the alleys down from the garbage trucks, we could have gauged the community a little bit, and some of this ripple effect that's occurring after an edict is made, such as that, as what happened. You know, we would be able to identify some of those problems beforehand and maybe able to come up with a more reasonable solution. So I don't know about the rest of the people here, but you know, there's been a significant change to, and again, to go back to a second, you know, it's uniquely a pass-the-grill problem. It's uniquely a historic district problem. We have a resolution where we talk about maintenance of the alleys and things to do with the alleys. And, you know, a decision was made with really no input that's causing a lot of, you know, problems on the beach. And so I don't know, maybe you all can help me on that, whether there's anything being set in front of any other boards, or if the city manager's involved. I've heard that he's supposedly involved in talking to Mike Clark and all this kind of stuff. But, you know, I've talked to our commissioner. I've talked to a lot of people on the beach. I've heard a lot of hearsay from discussions that they've had with waste management people, and it just seems like we've come to a very unreasonable change over. Things change over the last 50 years or ever long, and the garbage pickup is putting a lot of people's noses out of joint, and probably rightly so. So, you know, I don't know if anybody else has any comments they want to make, or anybody from the audience wants to talk about it at all, but I'd like some guidance, I suppose, as to whether this is something that we can kind of go forward with, like for next meeting, have people here. I know a couple months ago I had called in when this first came up, and there was some discussion about Mike Clark and maybe a representative of Waste Management being here to discuss it. This was last month, and then I wound up realizing I couldn't be at the meeting, so we just essentially took that away. But I certainly don't need Mr. Clark to come in here if he's already talking to other people and there's, you know, there's something being done. But this is really changing, I think, the fabric of the everyday person that lives there, especially older people, and you know.
I would like to echo that. I've heard a lot of negative feedback, and of course, I'm the first one to say that I don't like change. Personally speaking, it's not my comfort zone, but I think that the change that took place, people weren't aware or they weren't ready for, and I've had people that have come to me that are within the community that have been there for a long time and are used to the historic elements and aspects of it. And first of all, not everybody physically can move their trash from the back to the front. There's one woman that I spoke to that has to take her garbage through her home to be able to get it to the front for pickup, or wherever for pickup. Personally speaking, I wouldn't want to take my garbage through the house because it's garbage. So I've heard that, and there's just, I feel like there are so many things that we've done that are so positive. And on that note, I think that the city did such a great job after Ideally was through. I was so impressed with them. Everybody was like full force out there and, you know, lending a helping hand. And so I feel like to hit so many things out of the park and then to have this kind of fall is unfortunate. So I think that there needs to be a discussion. I think there needs to be something done. I think the people that I've talked to have basically been told it's a done deal. Nothing can be done. This is the way it is moving forward. And this is a closed conversation. And I don't think anything should be a closed conversation. I think it should all be an open conversation, and we might not agree, but at least we can have it.
Yeah, you know, I did have some conversation with Mike through email, Mr. Clark, about the alley before the garbage decision was made, about redoing some of the alleys that they had been redoing. And essentially agreed to me agreed with me that every alley is unique and everything, and Pasadena has a lot of different things, and that as far as fixing the alleys or redoing the alleys, which is not on any kind of budget or any kind of schedule right now, but in the future, that it would be that basically the input of the people in that block would come into it, you know, because some don't need to be redone, some do, some may need minor changes. I mean, the alleys are very integral past the grill. You know, some have grass medians. Maybe people want to leave those. You know, they don't want, you know, shell over the whole place. And I think he agreed with me on that. But then this garbage issue came up, and I think the real problem is not every block is. I mean, South Pasadena Grill, you know, the first 8 blocks or so, you know, which is older, they all have alleys. It's all residential, and, you know, to speak of, and so now people have to take their garbage. Here's a question I don't really know the answer to, whether the garbage men themselves will walk down an east-west alley to pick up garbage in the past. I think some places they did and some places they didn't. But
So, and for all of you watching, and if you're not aware, on September 26th, Mike talked for probably 20 minutes at the end of the meeting about all of this. So I would just urge you to watch it with the commission, because it came up, and he went very in depth. And at the end of the day, while I understand it's in the historic district, personally, I don't think this is a historic preservation board issue. I think we have a massive, I want to say 15-year agreement with Waste Connections. It could potentially be a legal issue. Personally, I would be more concerned if they weren't picking up trash, which they are. I understand there's an alley situation where some of them have potholes, and yeah, maybe the maintenance hasn't been the best, but they have now confirmed with pictures that driving through the alleys are disrupting their vehicles, causing damage, and other things that I kind of have to default to the trash experts, if you will, on. So unless the commission tells me to do something else, that it really is what it is. I hate to say it that way, but
this trash change was initiated by Waste Services and not initiated by the city. Is that correct?
Correct. It came at the request because of their vehicles, and I guess there were some injuries to their trash pickup. It's not very wide, some of these alleys, but go ahead, Amber. You have the minutes.
I pulled up the minutes as I was present, as well as Matthew, and what Matthew was saying is correct. It was added by your district commissioner. Commissioner Marone did bring it up. He wanted it addressed because he has spoken with Waste Connections and gotten some answers that he conveyed to staff that not like if you called, you'd probably get a different answer and you called, but he was getting a very good response from Waste Connections to understand the issue. And so what...
I don't mean, was this prior to the decision to shut the alleys down or after?
No, this was after.
Okay.
Because your Commissioner Marone, also brought up prior to this meeting about the letter that apparently went out by the city to the residents. I don't know, I haven't seen that letter, but he talked about how it needed to be better communicated or done again, something along those lines. So that was the first thing that he brought up. And then again, he brought this up at the September 26th meeting. And in that discussion, Matthew is correct, Attorney McConnell is correct. Mr. Clark discussed the process and how it came to be. And it was initiated by Waste Connection. Waste Connections came to the city and explained to them some of the issues they were having with truck damage, injuries to their staff, and that the alleyways were a big issue. But Mr. Clark also identified the other areas in the city where this is happening. So in District 3, there are some changes that were made a while back to their alleyways or some small roads, something along those lines. And also again in District 1, I believe he said. So there are other districts that this is happening. It's not specific to Paso Grill, and it has happened before today.
Well, it is specific. Those other districts don't have alleys.
Well, it's whatever small roadways, yeah.
District 3.
Yeah, so the changes were made. And Mr. Clark did identify that Waste Connections is working with any resident that may have maybe mobility issues and cannot move them. So the residents are encouraged to reach out to either maybe Mr. Clark, Waste Connections, to talk about like how can I get my garbage picked up because
that's not happening.
Well,
Waste Connection people say too many people are bothering me. Why are they bothering me?
Okay, so there's very few exceptions. Okay,
Yeah.
so we can talk to Mike Clark, but I also think, because I've been there and I've witnessed this, please treat staff with respect, because at the end of the day, it's not their decision. I've had situations go over there where They've called me, we've had to call the sheriff because people wouldn't leave and they're threatening lawsuits and all this over trash pickup,
Very aggressive,
respectfully.
yeah.
And while I can understand that things change and we used to use the alleys, the commercial trash pickup is something completely different as well. So right now we're just focused on residential.
It's both.
I understand that, but where I'm getting most of the concerns, besides maybe the one person in the audience raising her hand, have been more of residential pickups.
Of course, Paso Grille being its own little unique town, it's not all residential. There's business areas. I mean, let me just point out, you know, the business areas of St. Pete Beach have a few alleys and they're all concrete, right? Behind Corey Avenue and stuff. Okay, you know, Paso Grille is different. And so, you know, down there, some of the alleys are concrete and some aren't. And I guess according to Mike, it just depends on what the problems are. So obviously the city can do things if they want to in certain areas. You know, this is the first time, I'm not saying it didn't come up in that meeting, that it's been told that it was a waste management problem. Everybody on the street thinks it's because the garbage trucks tore up the alleys, and the alleys, it created potholes, and the city has a hard time maintaining the potholes, and the city's tired of trying to not doing that, so the easy way is just to shut down the alleys. And
I urge all those people.
Right or wrong, that's why it needs to be brought out so people really know what the story is there. Because,
Yeah, but respectfully, I'm not going to have Mike come back to, it's already been said.
Okay, well, respectfully.
September 26th, 30-minute, everyone can go watch it. It's online, it's on the website, and you can find out what's going on.
Okay, but it was not a commission vote, was it?
There's no vote that's necessary.
Okay, well, okay, so in that regard, Mr. Clark can obviously maybe unilaterally make a decision that affects everybody, and the city commission has no recourse? Of course they do.
I think it's
a contract between Waste Management and the city.
correct, and I think it's inappropriate to point to one person at the city and blame them. That's not
You were using
fair.
his name as well, and I have respect for him. I'm just saying that a lot of issues were not apparent when decisions were made.
I understand, and all I'm
Okay.
saying is the information is out there now, free to everyone.
Okay, well, a question I have. Okay, let's talk about, and like I say, there's a residential component and there's a business component.
Yeah, and
Residential.
I've heard those too, and before you start, the business component to me is a landlord-tenant issue, period.
No,
If you don't own the property, because I've heard people that are tenants in properties that are saying, oh, my trash, call your landlord. Call your landlord, because the account is under the owner of the property.
Okay, but no, here's what I'm saying. The point is, we have an alley, okay, that isn't being used because it's not properly maintained. So, you know, if you're on the business or the homes, the residences, the second floors on 8th Avenue, where you put your garbage back on the alley, now you've got to walk it all the way down 3 alleys and around the corner and put it on a public sidewalk. It's not like the people own the front yard like you do in a residential. It's significantly different.
And there is no side yard, they're all connected, so
Right, you
there's
can't
no
cut through.
way to get, I understand.
Well, and I would urge everyone that has an issue with the current to come to a meeting, because I'm obviously not the decision maker, it's the city commission. So if things need to be changed and the contract needs to be amended, then come to the meeting and express your concern to the commission and see what happens.
Well, I think people you mean to come to the meeting just as an audience comment?
Yeah, an audience comment. I mean, people do it all the time for various things. That's the more appropriate venue for this conversation, in my opinion. Because, respectfully, you all can't make changes to the agreement. Only the commission can. So if there's major concerns that maybe the commission isn't aware of, that would be the most appropriate venue.
Well, I guess my question would be, going back to the minutes we were just reading from, how was that notified? That was like there was supposed to be a discussion about?
There wasn't. It was a last-minute ad at the beginning because of all the concerns that Commissioner Marone had been hearing.
Well, how would the citizens know to show up then?
They don't. But just like right now at the beginning of the meeting, you can talk on things. People show up to every meeting and say the same thing every time that has nothing to do with the agenda. It's a public meeting. You can always show up and speak.
Yes, but if a decision is made at that meeting without...
No decision was made. It was just it was an update on, because of so much misinformation, it was Mike Clark sitting here, staying till the end, speaking for 25 minutes on how the situation got to where we are now and explaining it for the public so that there is clear information being circulated. And
Yes.
that's what occurred.
Okay, but Okay, so let me ask this. Why do certain people why do alleys get to be used in certain areas and not in other areas?
Again, ask the commission at a meeting.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say, but I've heard this topic over and over again, and I can't really do anything about it.
I'm not asking
I know, but
you to.
I didn't make the changes. Call your commissioner, show up to a meeting, and see if something changes. But
Well, see, I disagree with what you said a minute ago. I think here we have a proclamation. What was the word we're using? The resolution that's out there, that's been prepared, that we're waiting to get signed, that we've spent a lot of time on, that specifically talks about the alleys and us being brought in on that.
you know what it says about the alleys, though. It doesn't talk about trash pickup.
Well, but alleys are for service. That's what they were designed for.
It talks about shelling, and I will say respectfully, you were sitting here at a meeting in a joint workshop, and you had Commissioner Grill point blank ask you, "Are you asking for anything else?" And the answer was no.
Oh, garbage was an issue
At that time,
then.
we didn't know garbage was an issue. I mean, I think it's super helpful to know that this decision was initiated on the waste management side, and it wasn't an inner city powwow deciding we're not going to have trash in the alleys anymore.
And do I
that's
think-
a big piece of information.
Do I think that there could have been more information shot out? Of course, I'm a big believer in due process. Do I think people could have been notified, or door hangers or something, so that it wasn't just one day to the next, okay, they didn't pick up my trash because I didn't put it in the right place? Yes, I do.
At this point now, I think it's kind of our unofficial responsibility as board members or commission members or committee members to go back to our neighborhood associations with this information. So, you know, our next neighborhood association meeting, whether it's Pass a Grill or, you know, at the Warren Webster or anything, I'll certainly bring it up at Bell Vista, just so people in Bell Vista can share the information with people in Pass a Grill, because our paths cross a lot. But I think, you know, that's kind of what we do here. We bring information back to our neighborhoods, and our neighborhoods ask questions of us, which we can then bring back to the board.
Of course. And I would say it's towards the end. You don't have to watch the whole meeting. I would say it's within the last 45 minutes is when Mike gets up there. I believe it was during the city manager's report. He brought up Mike.
It was after the
Discussion.
Okay.
And then we have an audience comment. Can we?
Oh, the board can take, comments all day. I'm sorry.
Amy Lowry, 102 19th Avenue. I have two businesses on historic 8th Avenue, and that's what I'd like to speak to about today. On 8th Avenue, many of the businesses do not have access from back to front. They have 6 inches between each historic building. So I do not live at my business, so I'm not there to take the trash out at night and pick it up first thing in the morning. So what this requires of me is to have my staff or myself personally on trash pickup days go down in the late afternoon and drag those sometimes 3, sometimes 4 garbage cans 50 feet down my alley, another 100 feet up the next alley, and another 50 feet to get them in front of my business, where they sit in front of restaurants who are trying to do business. Now, it just does not make sense to me that on a commercial street, I'm with the residents on the rest, but I'm strictly talking about a commercial street, and it's historic 8th Avenue, which I think is something that concerns you guys, that we would have trash pickup in front of, that sits there all night in front of restaurants and other businesses who are still trying to operate at night. And it also requires the people who work for me to take that responsibility on themselves, and those alleys do have potholes and water in them, and I do not think that my women should have to subject themselves to that kind of physical activity. I mean, it's so simple to turn your ankle or what have you. So I'm speaking right now just about historic 8th Avenue, and I don't believe that any of us feel that it's a good idea to have trash on those streets while people are trying to operate their businesses. That's my comment.
Are the new subsurface structures going to be helpful in retaining that shell and managing the potholes and unevenness, where at some point waste management might revisit coming back down the alleys when those are restructured and resurfaced?
Fortunately, I don't know the answer to that.
And I think that that's a long, long way. The cost of doing those alleys are so expensive and they aren't budgeted. It would be The real issue is, what are the alleys, this first time I heard that the trash collectors have been injured on? What are the alleys where the vehicle, the trash vehicle, has supposedly been damaged or whatever? And how do you deal with those issues? What Ms. Lowry is talking about is there's a north-south alley behind the Seahorse, which does not have any potholes in it because it was fixed by the owner of the Seahorse because the city wouldn't fix potholes. And so it's a big, wide open alley that a trash truck could easily go down and take care of most of the problems in the business district. The alley on the west, the north side, hold on, the alley to the north side the west side of the north-south alley is concrete. So the trash trucks do go down that. So we have trash trucks going down part of the business area and not down the other business area. The other problem is the east-west alley is entirely impassable and has been for years and years and years, so it never really has been maintained by the city. And supposedly the waste collection says it's too dangerous for their guys to walk down the alley. So
Not too dangerous for
Yeah.
myself and my employees, I guess.
And so,
But I will just say that tractor trailers go down that alley all day long. Food deliveries, I mean, the guy that picks up the dumpsters and and, you know, full-size tractor trailer trucks use that alley daily to drop off supplies on the street. So I'm just speaking from the commercial aspect and of business on 8th Avenue and what I think is a beautification problem that has to do with how the garbage is being picked up.
And so my point would be, I'm sure none of that was taken into consideration at that meeting, because people didn't know of that part of the CRD. And so it was just a unilateral, alleys don't go down that. And I think that would be, I know it's not the right thing, we can go talk to the commissioners, but that's an easy fix for that one thing, is just let the trash go down that alley.
And I understand, but you said, we prefaced this with you saying that you had reached out to the commissioner, so did you not tell him about the 8th alley?
Absolutely.
Okay, so then he did know about it at the meeting?
No, this was after that meeting.
No, he met with Waste Connections regarding that specific issue before that meeting.
But they didn't come up with a solution.
Right, and see, part of the issue was they talked about, well, if you bring your garbage to the T of the alley there, they'll pick it up. There's no place to put it. It's all private property. You know, it's when they said they aren't going to let the trash trucks go down to pick up the dumpsters. The trash collectors, men, are going to walk up the alley and wheel the dumpster down to the street, and they can do that. But, you know, besides people on Pasadena Way who have an alley behind their house, they've always left their garbage out there behind their house. Now they got to put it in front of their house where there's no place for it. There's parked cars out there. They don't even have a driveway. Everywhere south of 9th, there's no driveways that go onto Pasadena Way. And so I just don't think any of that was taken into consideration because there wasn't enough homework done on it. And there has to be, it's a unique problem, and there has to be a unique solution. You know, so it's, you know, if you're saying, you know, I mean, it's interesting in the beginning you said there were some people that you had to call the police on, whatever. That's how people think about a lot of this stuff. Yeah.
No, they are. I don't want to give the board, I've always been transparent with you. I don't want to give you false hope and think that you actually have a say in this decision. I'm just trying to be honest.
I get it.
And I don't want people to waste their time coming here when they can just go to the commission meeting.
Okay, I appreciate that.
To the board that actually can change things, right? And so, not to diminish what you all do, but I'm just trying to be realistic.
And that's fine, I appreciate it. I'm not upset, and this is just sort of a discussion item, and maybe people are watching at home, and they've
hopefully they are.
We've honed down a little bit on what people may need to do.
So just to be clear, the commission does have a say in the resolution of this problem?
Potentially. So it hasn't even gotten that far, right? Like, what I would need from the commission is, hey, Matthew and Andrew, we need you to solve this issue. Take a look at the agreement, right? And see if there's something that we can work out. We obviously don't just do things to build a city for no reason. I do it based on direction from the commission. I have not been asked to do that. So that's all I can really say. There may be a solution, there may not be, but at the end of the day, just like we do with other public works, I mean, you also have to default to the contractor to some extent.
Sure.
You know, I mean, if they're showing me pictures and stuff, then I I don't know.
I think this is probably a unique situation that may or may not be written into contracts when it comes to.
Oh, of course, I can guarantee it's probably not.
And I know that the business of the city is handled by the very qualified staff. But when something exceeds those parameters and there's a problem been created, if somebody does complain to the city commission, will their voice be heard by the commission, and the commission actually has a voice in solving the problem?
In my opinion, because the commission entered into the agreement legally, yes, I would say that the commission has the ability to either request an amendment or have me clarify something, no doubt. But I go to every commission meeting. A lot of people complain about a lot of things, and it doesn't mean that they get done immediately, right? Just to be realistic,
I mean, people complaining about one thing.
Well, and personally, I've been at every city commission meeting the last, 2 years. I haven't heard one person get up at a meeting and complain about garbage.
So your suggestion is that if people have, and even people on this board, if there is a problem that they see and they have a problem with it, they should address the city commission in person, by letter.
I think people sometimes, correct.
Written communication.
I think sometimes people forget, and if the commission's watching this, they may not like that, but I mean, these are public officials, right? I mean, these are people that were voted into office, and especially your district commissioner. For some reason, I feel like people think that they're unreachable, but there's emails, there's phone numbers. I mean, city clerk has public information on them. Yeah. I know they make it a point to get back to people, just like me. I mean, if you need issues, you can always call me. So
the folks that are affected by this in Paso Grill should be reaching out en masse as individuals to the commission.
To Commissioner Marone.
I don't know.
He's heard a lot.
I don't know if I'd go that far because he may be a little upset by the mass emails, but I think everything that we do as a city is in the public, right? And we're not a private corporation. No matter what your issue is, big or small, you are always welcome at a public hearing. You are always welcome at a city commission meeting. You always have 3 minutes to speak on whatever you want. Sometimes I don't think people utilize that. It's easy enough to send an email, but if you're getting 200 emails on the same thing and you're also having a full-time job, you may not get around to reading everyone. But when you're face-to-face with them, you have their undivided attention for that 3 minutes, and you may make an impact.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I just...
Folks in Paso Grill should be coming to the meetings and speaking their mind about this issue.
Yeah,
there's plenty of people that come and speak about plenty of issues.
Yeah, I mean, I do know there's a petition out there that has like 75 signatures or something like that, so I guess they should probably bring more chairs for the next meeting. I'm just saying.
We got plenty of people. Well, petitions have circulated all the time the last 3 years. Legally, they do nothing.
I understand.
75 people.
I didn't mean to be snarky. I'm just saying there's that many people out there that care about it. They need to come to a meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Obviously, the fire marshal will be here for capacity issues, but no.
Chief of police too.
Yeah. No. Open to the public always.
Yep. Okay. Well, thanks for that gives some direction to this unique problem, and hopefully we can move forward to try to get a reasonable solution. All right. So I guess there's no other matters. Is that correct? Lynn? Yes.
Oh, Lynn has an update on some of the grant stuff. Sorry.
Oh yeah. 5D.
She raised her hand.
I have a nice update for you, I think. As of Monday, the historic contract has been fully executed for the survey of Bella Vista and the Don Cesar neighborhoods. And just to show you, I've got a couple maps in the area. This is the Don Cesar place, and everything in red, those are the properties that are at least 50 years older or more, and there are 194 of them. This is Bella Vista. Ooh.
Very old.
And there are 476 of them. Now, we did say in the grant application that we would completely survey Don Cesar, and we would do as many in Bella Vista as we could. I don't know if you know this, but I've been working with CLG Partnership, that is a consortium of the CLGs in Pinellas County, working in concert with the University of Florida, with Pinellas County, City of St. Pete Beach, City of Dunedin and Tarpon Springs, and St. Petersburg. And what has been done, we're in phase 3 now, is look at areas in our communities that have significant repetitive loss and severe repetitive loss properties. And last year, through that effort, we had almost 100 properties in Bella Vista surveyed by the University of Florida, and Florida Master Site File forms were done and submitted to the state. They have committed, University of Florida and the consortium have committed to do about another 100 in Bella Vista. So that will help us get, more properties surveyed. What we'll be doing in the near future is getting together with we're going to be putting out the RFP for a contractor. We're also going to be meeting with the neighborhood associations to just let them know, inform you guys what's going to be going on. And there will probably be use for volunteers from the neighborhoods. I know with the consortium, Linda Stevenson, who's the University of Florida professor, who's the major coordinator of all of this, she says she could really use some volunteers in Bella Vista. So I know just a few minutes ago, before the meeting started, I learned from Tia that there's a meeting next Thursday night. Perhaps I could go and...
I'm already going, so
Are you going? Okay, then I'll give you that information. So you can let them know that we'd like to maybe get some volunteers that can help with the survey. And
what is the volunteer actually? What does that mean, like door to door?
Help with the collection of some of the survey data. One of the things that's being developed, and I'm not sure yet if for the Bella Vista phase that we will use it, or they will use it, the county is developing a mobile app or a phone to put all of the Florida Master Site File data into that app, including pictures. But what happens is before they actually go out, they utilize county data to start to populate what is on that form that can be populated on the Florida Master Site File form. And then volunteers can help to collect additional data, maybe provide some information about the neighborhood history and things like that, which, when you do a survey, you don't always have a lot of time to do that sort of work, to, do your history collection. We have a lot of history in Paso Grill, and we also have the Gulf Beaches Museum. They have a lot of history there. So Linda did say that she would like to have some volunteer components help out. She does use some of her students. We also have the possibility of utilizing some University of South Florida students through a professor, Dr. Catherine Wilkins, who's
involved with the museum.
Pardon me?
She's involved in the museum.
Yes, she's very involved in the museum, and what they've been doing is digitizing all of the records at the Historical Museum. They've also been digitizing some of the records at our library. And there is I forget the name of what the exact title of it is, but you can go online now through the library and find out information about the history of Paso Grill, but also other components of St. Pete Beach. And so we may be able to use them also in my conversation with Dr. Wilkins of collecting more data and digitizing it as well. We have a lot of information in my office that's just in my office, and not many other places. So, getting that kind of stuff digitized and put into the record where people can go look at it and use that when they're doing research would be extremely helpful. As we move forward with the historic survey we're going to do this year, and hopefully a historic survey we may wind up, getting another historic grant for the Quarry Avenue area. I know that the Historic Review Board just met yesterday, and I sat in on their public hearing and answered some questions and gave them an overview of what we were doing. That was online. So we'll get ranked later, and they did not have any major questions at all. They were pleased with how the survey looked, the survey grant looked. So any questions about where we're going? I know pretty soon we'll probably be bombarding Bella Vista and Don Cesar folks we'll be sending out letters letting everybody know that we're going to be doing the survey work, so they're not going, my God, who are these people out here wandering around with clipboards and phones? What are they doing? Are they casing the joint or what?
They're picking up trash.
Just kidding.
Put a notice on the trash can.
Great work, Lynn.
Trash can.
Great work. Good job.
It's really exciting.
It is.
So
That's
we
awesome.
will be getting, I know I've already sent out letters initially to the two presidents of the associations of Bella Vista and Don Cesar, but
Yeah, Lynn, if I could get a copy of that purple map, that would be great. I'll blow it up and bring it to our meeting.
Of your map?
Next Thursday.
this is not a final map. This is, the GIS guys are working on it for me. But yeah, you're welcome to have this.
Maybe we should pass it the next month until there's a final map.
Well, our meeting's next Thursday.
I think he was
Joking. I'm sorry.
He was joking.
I'm totally joking.
They won't care if it's not 100% accurate. They like colors and pretty visuals, so.
Yeah, it
We're
is.
going to,
Great work, Lynn.
we will be providing a breakdown of what the University of Florida has surveyed and what's left to do, and also having street numbers visible, because the dark red obscures the actual street address of the house. So we'll be having a more readable map in the very near future. I know he's working on it now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anything else?
Bang it.